Illustrator, but here's a little bit of the final piece with some strokes giving different shapes to it. So the handle was illustrated, and then the top part of this shape, so when you're thinking of the dimensionality, just using the pen tool, created a gradient, and on the stroke had a gradient fill. And then this foreground shape kind of arching it around here, and that'll fill in with the pieces there. Segment that has the chord, just an elliptical shape. See if I can zoom in a little bit. And just making two elliptical shapes, one over the top of the other, just to give it that illusion of dimension with a radial gradient, and just modifying the curvature of that gradient to fit that kind of stroke, and then going back to the outside edge of this. Here's where you're just taking a pattern fill, and then on the bottom part just giving this kind of a lip, a little bit of a stroke. Here's a rectangle piece that has the pattern, and once that's made you can just fill it, and you can even duplicate the shape to create a gradient over the top of it with a little bit of shading, so it looks a little more realistic to it. This top piece and the cable is just a path that has a gradient of the blue, and so I just take a gradient section for there. Right now it has the pattern filled on it, but here's a blue piece shaded going along that edge, so it makes it fit in there pretty easily. You can always add a texture to it under the appearance panel, and that'll give you a little bit more soft, fuzzier edges on there. That'll make it kind of fit within that piece. You can see where this pattern overlaps that section, so that's not going to be a problem. Just overlap each other's shape. This top part just has a circle. This is where the lever on the top that spins fits right into it, hinges over. So it's just a gradient fill, kind of building it up a couple shapes into there. Here just doing a little bit of a cast shadow of this spinning arm onto the surface there, so just doing a few shapes with the pen tool and modify that a little bit so I can adjust that to fit that better. But that's just a gradient fill with the opacity change. Here's the top part of this with a little bit of a texture in there, so it's just using what they call a blend, but you can just draw the shapes in separately if you got to that part. And that just puts two shapes on either side. These are just lines. One's thinner and thicker, and when you use the blend tool, it sets out increments of pieces getting smaller depending on the two shapes that you have, and I'll show that to you. And then it's just a matter of taking all these pieces. I just copied it and moved it over. Square this up a little bit. And it's just a matter of fine-tuning it once you have all the pieces that you like. Just like a drawing, kind of shading it in. Here's a duplicate page with a gradient on top of it. Just try to give a little bit of a shading element to it. Same with the top part of this. Bring everything into the different segments as they layer themselves in. And you pretty much have it accounted for. So everything has a tone to it. A little bit of a separation from the blob brush tool, but there's where you have this piece, and you can just make a screenshot of that. Just kind of place it over, and just going to put it on a gray background of the outside of the page. And that's all there is to it, not too much. Just do a screenshot. You're all set.